Hello and welcome to Mastering the Art of Customer Journey Management with Digital Intelligence. My name is Michael Millett. I'm a Senior Director at Medallia in charge of our digital strategy and practice. And I'm pleased to be joined here with our friend, Jeannie Walters. Jeannie is an award-winning customer experience expert, international keynote speaker, and founder of Experience Investigators. Jeannie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
So am I, and thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
So some housekeeping notes for all of those who are watching this out there. This session is being recorded and will be shared after the event. Don't be shy with your thoughts and questions as we go through our session. As you'll see from Jeannie and I, we are not shy at all. And feel free to share them directly in the Q&A box, and we look forward to replying to them during the session and certainly by the end. And don't forget to check out the related resources box on your screen, where you'll see some helpful research and workbooks that you can take back to your team. So with that, what are Jeannie and I going to get into today? Well, like we shared in the beginning of our invitation, we are going to cover topics ranging from how you can streamline your operations to create a seamless digital ecosystem that helps your customers come back for more experiences from you. We're going to talk about omni-channel personalization strategies. What is personalization? What are those strategies in the past? How are they evolving right now? We're also going to talk about what is journey management in the context of both operational efficiency and personalization. And Jeannie and I will share real-world examples that we've seen and have been fortunate enough to work with customers throughout to actually help them realize that at that organization. So I hope you're as excited as we are. And with that, why don't we start with the first question I think that we should dive into, Jeannie, which is, how do you define customer journey management? And why is it critical for businesses to understand and track today?
Yeah, it seems like such a simple question, right? But I think a lot of times we forget sometimes as business leaders that everything we do on the inside of the organization is great, but you know what? Our customers are experiencing a journey, whether we talk about it or not, whether we actually try to orchestrate it, design it or not. So when I think about this term customer journey management, what we're really trying to do is be proactive and intentional about the journey. And part of that is understanding who that customer is and where they are on their journey, and what that feedback is along the way so that we can adjust. We can make sure we're giving them the improvements they're seeking, that we're removing the barriers, we're making it, a more effortless and delightful experience for them. And part of that is really around visibility inside our organization. We need to make sure that the people who are serving our customers, whether that's the folks who are designing the digital experiences or the ones answering the phone calls, that they have visibility into the right data at the right moment along the journey. Because customers tell us, I want you not only to know who I am, but I want you to understand where I am on the journey so that we don't have to back up, right? We don't have to back up and share more information. We can recognize where they are and help guide them to that next step. So that's really how I define it. What does that sound like to you, Michael?
Well, it reminds me a lot of what I first learned when I started my career in customer experience. And I actually started as market research, where we were asking those questions of how you think and feel about things along the way. And it reminds me of things that still hold true today. I can remember being in customer journey workshops and whiteboarding. What is the business need, but what is the customer want and need? And trying to reframe ourselves to put ourselves in our customer's shoes. So I subscribe to exactly what you still shared. We can still ask ourselves the questions of what are customers' intent and what are some different signals that they're giving us along the way that we can pick up. And something that you shared that I find is hitting everyone right now is that there might be new signals or new insights to dig into than there might have been in the past, or at least we seem to be more aware of those different types of signals than the past and have the potential to use them differently. Do you see the same, that there are some different signals to key into?
Absolutely. And I think when you back that up even further, we might be asking different questions, right? We might be just savvier as business people, understanding, you know what, when people are experiencing long wait times, for example, or they are frustrated with certain parts of their journey, and they let us know that through either what they're saying to us, that feedback data, but also those operational touch points where we look at, okay, well, people are complaining about long wait times. We can't just throw up our hands and say, well, that's the way it is, right? Like, we can use that signal and we can say, okay, what can we learn even more about? How can we dig into this? How can we really understand that when customers are not only telling us this feedback, but the operational data is showing us this feedback, we have a place to really zero in on and understand the signals from all around that. So why are they frustrated with the long lines? Is it because they also aren't getting the responsive uh, times that they want when they contact customer service about that very thing? Is it because it's the only channel available to them, right? We need to think about what is the choice that customers are making and how can we really honor that choice? And then at the end of the day, that actually serves us and our organizations. Because if we can actually reduce their effort, their feeling of disappointment, then they're going to stay with us longer. They're going to purchase more, all of those things. So I'm sure you hear, things like that all the time with your clients as well, right?
We do. And I'll actually relate to what you shared in your example of, wait times in person to wait times in the digital channel. The concept of why isn't this page loading fast enough to meet my needs? Or the search did not bring me to the desired area that I intended to land on. It didn't answer the question. This content isn't as helpful as I would have liked it. Or I actually was brought into this channel by you, and here I am now. But the offer that I thought I was going to be given is not the offer that I'm seeing in front of my eyes. So the expectations are mismatched. And so what that relates to, you mentioned operational signals. To me, I think of those as the operational or behavioral signals of the digital channel. And there are new ways to actually make use of that information that our customers are constantly asking us, can you help us with? Because if we think about it, there is an audience that will directly share how they feel with you. And we'd love for them to be a large audience and be fully representative, but we're not always sure. So wouldn't it be great if we looked at the other audience or the whole population of the world and said, what is everyone doing? And what does it mean based on what they're doing? And you can actually calculate an importance of what it means. Are they frustrated? Are they engaged? Are they disengaged? Are they able to find what they need? And you can drive the same sorts of actions that you're describing there of, let's improve the operational processes of a location. Let's change our staffing assortment. Let's change our engagement policies in a location. You could do the same with content, initiating a chat moment, all on the online channel as well. All the same.
It's so true. And I think this is why digital intelligence is so important, right? Because it gives us information that otherwise we might not be able to glean from feedback. We might not be able to glean from in-person even situations. People are just behaving the way they're behaving and they're looking for certain things. They're trying to achieve a goal. They're trying to, get something taken care of. And so the more that we can understand those signals, the more that we can actually make all of those goals more achievable for them. We can actually help them actually attain what they're there to do. And so I think that's super exciting. And the other part that I like to remind people of is we don't walk around and classify ourselves as digital customers, right? We don't say, well, I'm a digital customer now. That's just not how we behave. So these channels are all important to all our customers, because even if it's somebody who maybe doesn't typically use a digital channel, there will be opportunities where they do. They prefer that in that situation. And so making sure that we understand that digital landscape just helps us understand all of our customers in such a more nuanced and broader way at the same time.
It's a real story that we have. Can you imagine if this were to happen in person, where you were trying to use your credit card and you weren't able to do so, how that would make you feel in person? You just don't understand why that doesn't work. So imagine if you're doing it from the convenience of your own home, you're submitting your information and you're not able to proceed. And so you're not able to actually complete the order as you intended. And not only that, you don't actually see a message as to why the process is failing. So it's failing, you can't do what you want, and you have no clue what to do next. That would frustrate me to no end. It wouldn't just frustrate me in that moment, but it would make me feel differently about the brand overall. So this happened for one of our customers. And the wild thing about this was that it was going missed until we turned on, they turned on a digital intelligence capability, which many solutions have. But this capability then revealed what is the amount of business impact by people not able to proceed past that step.
And how much?
And that's a very obvious one, right? You can't put in a credit card information you can't buy. So naturally, yes, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars per week and millions of dollars per year that were blocked in that niche scenario. But you can zoom out and think of all sorts of different moments in the digital channel where if you're not able to complete that, there is not only a customer impact, but a business impact too.
That's such a great example, first of all. And I think it also underlines how, you know what, when you're getting feedback data, you're only getting it from the people who have access to giving you that feedback, right? But if you're not looking for these kind of hiccups in your digital experience, if you don't have the ways to really look for these things that cause that effort and barrier for the customer, then you're literally leaving money on the table. You are literally walking away from revenue. And so that's a great example of that. And then I think the other thing that I see is that think about how many situations on the other side of that equation where, you know, people calling customer service, right? People having to take that next step, take some step where they're taking resources away from the organization because something didn't work right the first time. And so that's really, when we talk about operational efficiency, that's part of this too, is understanding that it isn't just about increasing revenue through the money that you might be leaving on the table, but also reducing those expenses that are required when you need that additional service. We hear about examples like repairs, right? Where people have something going on and you have to send a tech out. That is something that wouldn't happen if it were working right the first time. But if we don't connect those dots, then it's easy to look at things in kind of this siloed way. And that's what I love about kind of the whole idea of the journey, is that it's very holistic. It's very much about who is this customer? What are they trying to do in this scenario? And then what are they going to try to do next time, right? What is the next step that we can help make a little easier, that we can get proactive and intentional about? And so by using this intelligence, we can really do that. We can look at their journey in a holistic way. We can not only help the customer, but then we can flip the script and start really thinking about, how will this help us as the organization? How can we improve those operational efficiencies? And how can we really prove the ROI on this? That's exactly it. If you do this well, your revenues go up and your expenses go down. And honestly, I don't know any CFO or CEO who wouldn't say that that's music to their ears, right? So,
and I think that's the major takeaway of customer journey management. It's not an exercise in a box.
Right.
By really double checking, do we really understand the needs and wants along not only the life cycle, but in those moments in those life cycles, those types of journeys that are very important or repeat, they're going to be repetitive and they're happening, and that's what's expected. Do we know what our customers want and intend, what is best for them, and what is personal for them, which we'll get into later? So I think our takeaway is that by doing that exercise, you actually unlock not only value for the customer, but for the business. And one of our leave behind materials will actually help people review that kind of an exercise if they haven't done it in a while, because newsflash, customer journeys have changed dramatically, probably even changed today relative to yesterday, for everyone who's listening.
Yep, that's right. I like to say journey mapping is a verb, not a noun, because it's something that it's really the act of doing it that gives you those insights. It's not really about the end deliverable. It's about really figuring out, what is this journey like today and how can we improve it for our customers?
Well, something else that's continuous that you mentioned, so it's a natural segue, is operational improvement or operational efficiency. So this is something that comes up all of the time with our customers at Medallia, and really our company was really founded on the principles of using customer experience to drive operational efficiency. But these days, all brands are being asked to do more with less.
Mhm.
Uh, so how would you suggest, or um, have you seen successfully done using different types of intelligence, digital intelligence, operational intelligence, all that sorts of activity and direct feedback data even? How have you seen all this come together to help operations now? And are there some steps that you can think of to drive even more operational efficiency?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that like a lot of organizations just never take advantage of this part of it. And when they do, it's a gold mine of making things better for the customer and for employees, which is something that is really important in today's marketplace as well. So you think about how, let's say we were talking about those long wait times or things like that. If you start really digging into the root cause analysis of that, you can make huge changes for your organization that makes it better for everyone. And one of my favorite recent stories of this is the Starbucks CEO who is hanging out in coffee shops once a month now, right? He's serving as a barista because he wanted to get close to the experience. And one of the first things he noticed was how they have different size cups and lids. And so you order one drink, and if you grab the wrong lid, you've got to throw out that lid. It slows everything down. The employees, are frustrated because they can't get the right thing. And he was like, wow, that's something that if we start making that streamlined and simpler, then it's better for our employees and it speeds up the customer experience. So it's a win-win-win. They're also not throwing out the cups, all these different things. So you apply that to digital and you think about like the example you had, where if we can look at, okay, if somebody is taking a long time to get from their cart to checkout on a mobile app, well, what is that really telling us? Let's look into it. Is it because we have to optimize something? Is it because they don't have the right information? Or sometimes it's really straightforward. We need to give them a little more reassurance during the payment process, right? So we need to say, this is what's going to happen. These are the payment methods you have, whatever it is. But we could be more proactive so that they're going to be more confident taking that next step. All of that improves what you do on the inside of the operation as well. And again, then you don't have that residual effect of people getting frustrated and contacting your customer service or telling people, the story you shared about, what would happen if you didn't have that credit card. You would tell everybody about that experience, right? You would say, you won't believe what happened to me at so and so. And the same thing happens with digital. I call them the airline stories or airplane stories, where you're sitting next to somebody and you get
Hmm.
talking and you say, oh, I've got one that will top that, right?
Yes.
And so we don't want to be that. So I think that the whole idea of operational efficiency is really big. But when we think about it, it can be simplified so much just by really narrowing our focus and saying, what's going on here? And figuring out how can we improve that for both our customers and employees and the systems that we use as well.
And have you seen, a practice, whether it's a structure or an exercise, really help? So the reason why I ask, we seem to be living in a day of information overload.
Yeah.
And you mentioned how it's not only important to walk in your customer's shoes, but walk in your employees' shoes. And that actually relates a lot to how I think about digital transformation. As much as we'd like to think this is an external and a customer activity, digital transformation is at first an
Mhm.
internal exercise to enable our employees to serve customers better and
Yep.
deliver the experiences that they want. And sometimes that is a productivity as well as an engagement, as well as an awareness and an enablement exercise through technology inside of our organization. So I asked that question with that in my mind. Do you
Mhm.
feel like there's a tip or a structure or
Mhm.
a practice that brings employees together in a different way um, than
Yeah.
in the past?
Well, and I think part of what you're kind of narrowing in on is we've done this in many different ways, but it's always been a little piecemeal, right? Like it's not unusual for sales to do an A/B test or something like that on a site and then say, well, this is better. But I think what we're what we're really encouraging employee teams to do now is think about that journey in a more holistic way and understand that, you know what, the content that we put in front of uh, customers online, when they make different decisions around that content, that might affect your marketing team, that might affect your sales team, that might affect your customer service team down the line. And so, really making sure that everybody understands that this is all part of one journey, that can really help, because otherwise we get these siloed approaches. And we might even see people getting confused because on one part of the experience, they're seeing one piece of content and then they go further and they see something that contradicts that if we're not really understanding the end-to-end journey. So I think bringing employees together to understand the customer journey and do exactly what you're talking about, a customer journey workshop, something like that, where you talk about the fact that this is one person that we're talking about that is going through their journey, and we have to recognize that. So when they interact with us, we have the insights, we have that right data at the right moment to really say to them, oh, I see you've already done this, right? Like, I see you've explored here. Also, I think there's so much to be said about automation and making our employees' lives easier that way, right? Those automated workflows that are so amazing, and proactively prompting them with the right information around analytics and insights and saying, hey, did you see this? Right? Like, this will really help you as you're dealing with your customer today. So I think the whole idea of what digital intelligence and analytics and all of these things can do for us, it's really marrying that with like the understanding that the humans in the organization have around what is the journey and how can we really deliver on behalf of our customers.
And you touched on automation there, so that's quite related to 2 points. There's internal. So I
Mhm.
just read this morning actually that Slack put out research in May in 2023 that said 77% of employees acknowledge the benefits of automating repetitive tasks, but only 45% of teams say that they've implemented the
Mm.
processes to do it. So there's room for growth to help
Yes.
our own employees um, manage experience, though it's repetitive. They want to manage it in a most consistent way.
Hmm.
They want to collaborate in a more consistent way. That same research mentioned some different strategies to make sure that everyone was alerted so that you could create that kind of internal ideation and problem solving. So it's not only wanting to do the root cause analysis, but you have to be able to have the right technology in place that brings people together to drive for change. And so the other automation angle would be external. So I don't have the stat offhand. Oh, here you go. 84% of customers believe personalized experiences are as important as the brand's products and services. 84%. And
Hmm.
that stat was maybe a stat from 2 years ago. I'd imagine it's even higher now. And I think if we were to look at that stat in 2018 or 2019, it's probably more like 50 to 60%.
Hmm.
So you mentioned it. We are very much in the age of you do need to know the customer. You do need to dive into that root cause. And it's not enough to solve it right one time. You have to solve it right every time. And ideally, we get to the point of there wasn't a problem to solve.
Hmm.
There's just an opportunity to act on.
It's a great, great point that you just made about, let's use it as an opportunity to act on this, because I think when we think about personalization, sometimes we do think about recognizing, where somebody is in their journey. But if we are going into a hotel and they say our name, that's personalization, right? If they recognize who we are. If we are interacting with content and it says, hey, we noticed you read this last time you watched this video, here's the next thing we think is really going to help you, that feels very personal to us. And I think that that's kind of the level that we're all trying to get to, is understanding our customers and understanding their journey enough so we can serve up the right things for them so that it feels very personal, but it's at scale too. We can't necessarily do this for every single customer, with the size of our organizations. But when we have tools like this, we actually can. And I think there's a lot of really interesting reactions right now because people are somewhat fearful, right? Like, oh, don't let the robots in, don't scale. But what we found is that when we can use personalization to avoid exactly what you talked about with the repetitive tasks, with repetitive answers. Sometimes what happens is the automations and the technology can actually provide a more personalized experience, something that feels more empathetic to the customer, understanding. Because if I'm, at a hotel desk and I'm answering all day long, yes, there are towels at the pool, right? Every single call. I'm not going to have the same level of empathy as I at the end of the day as I did in the beginning. But if I have a bot or if I have something like that that can really serve up and say, oh, you know what, Michael, we know you like the pool when you've stayed with us before. We want you to let towels are there, something like that, where it's really recognizing not just the needs of when things go wrong, but proactively being positive about the experience and providing this intentionality that I think means so much to customers when it's done well.
And what's the quote? To err is human. Uh,
That's right.
we're we're in the days where we mean well as
Yes.
employees, but if we think about how much we've been through in the last couple of years, and I know we don't like to rehash the past, but the past happened, so we
Yep.
rehash it a little. We have entered into this new world where we might be a little bit more under-enabled than we would have been
Hmm.
had we all been working together in person and experiencing each other's ideas and collaborating and seeing our customers in person. Um, there are new technologies that emerge that we're not used to. We
Hmm.
don't know how to use the technology properly. We're not comfortable yet. We have questions. We like it when it tells us things like, for instance, I'm engaged and I'm getting married in a year. We found where we're going to get married through ChatGPT. It
Yeah.
saved time. We loved that hours time saved. But that's something that I could do in my personal life. It's
Hmm.
not something that I would necessarily rush to put in a sensitive information right now because of I don't know where that information is going to go.
Hmm.
But the other thing too is, like you mentioned at a hotel, so much is going to go on. But in that scenario, let's imagine that scenario wasn't even in person, but that scenario is then happening online. And it's a
Hmm.
hotel property brand that you've stayed at before. Your expectation is that they know you. And every single time you give them any information about you now, because you finally are open up to that,
Hmm.
you expect each time to get more personal every
That's right.
single time in light of the last time and every last time and what's happening right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
So that we can't achieve a level of operational efficiency without sometimes the tech helping us. And to err is the human. We as humans don't have unlimited time. We
Hmm.
don't know everything. And sometimes we are just inconsistent through no fault of our own. It's human. And
Yeah.
that's where technology can kind of help balance that. And it makes me think, Jeannie, of Medallia's past. We were a company founded by Amy and Berger Hall, who would
Right.
stay at properties all of the time and want that property to know their personal preferences in that stay. And they
Hmm.
created this company to help brands and customers be closer together to understand how they felt. And now, 23 some odd years later, not only did we have all of that, but we're now in the world where that can just be dynamically ingested, and then we can actually create the scenario. We're coming up to the hotel desk. They really know it's Amy and Berga.
Hmm.
They really know how they felt in that moment. And they really know if that exact moment that you said about towels not being available, what should we respond with
Hmm. Hmm.
exactly in that moment? What is the next best conversation? And we have some customers potentially doing millions of next best conversations online and offline a day now because that technology exists.
Well, and I think you bring up a really great example of that like human technology partnership, because the person at that hotel desk who greets you, they want to greet you. They want to do the right thing. And now with this technology and what we have to offer, they have the right tools to do that. So it's like, even if we say that there's all this technology and what do we do? And like you said, people are overwhelmed by some of the data and things like that. When we get it to this level, we can really empower people in a very powerful way as well, because this, having options is very, very important. People want that. And in fact, they showed how flexible they are during these last few years. Consumers tried new ways of doing things in record numbers. They were not afraid of some of the, digital options like they had been in the past. And so all of that will continue. People are evolving as well as this technology. And I think the more that we can link those two together, the better we'll be. But I really love that story of how it's really about understanding not just, what's happening in the moment, but also what can we do for you? And what can we do for you compared to everybody else? So is it, you've told us through your hotel profile that you really like points. So do you want the points versus the free breakfast, right? Like you
Right.
get to choose if something happens. So all of that feels very personal as well. And that's all enabled through this technology and through understanding the analytics and the data that we have, which is really exciting.
It is. So summarizing our points thus far, there's an opportunity to really double check the journeys as we understand it from the customer's eyes, not just our own. That will then open up the opportunities to identify opportunities or issues. And you should do root cause analyses together. People working together from multiple perspectives actually will unlock better solutions that you could then take action on. And taking action to really achieve operational efficiency, it's now something to consider is blending what does the employee, the human do, and what does the technology do? Where is it safe, okay, repetitive, perhaps simple, perhaps manageable, where we can anticipate what to do and we can set it. And if those conditions become true, we can watch the chat bot, the chat initiation, or just the operational system do the recovery or do the proactive content delivery, the help tip. And those are things that can be balanced now. So that's, I think, what we've talked about up to this point. So
we're just chatting here, Michael.
I know. And now, not that, in some ways, we're already on the edge for probably for some of our listeners, but we can remember, you can always crawl, walk, run. Even if it sounds like a very ambitious concept, you can always test it in a pocket and then see if it works. So nothing is out of reach for anyone listening.
That's
But
exactly right.
The next question is, well, we've touched on all of these things, but what's next? Because everyone wants to know what's next. And it seems like something is new every day. So Jeannie, what do you feel is next?
Wow. Well, the world is moving really fast right now, right? That's part of it. And so when we have to keep up, I just want to reiterate something you just said about crawl, walk, run, because I think a lot of people do kind of throw up their hands sometimes and say, this is all too much. It's all too much. But if you start understanding the customer and their journey, and you can do that very low tech with, customer journey mapping, post-its on the wall, and then you take that step and you say, where would it matter the most, right? Like, where would it matter the most for us to really show up for our customers in a different way? Where would it matter to understand our customers in a deeper way? Then you start applying the technology and tools there, you get those insights, and then you act. And I think that's something that everybody can do, even if it feels a little overwhelming. So I just want to reiterate, start small, because I think that's really important. But let's think big now. Let's think about the future. So when we talk about the future, I don't think we've said AI yet, which, we're a couple minutes in.
Dancing around it.
Yeah. So artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of the amazing things that are happening around there, that is going to open up so many new worlds for us, but it's also going to open up worlds for our customers, right? Because if we don't need a whole bunch of data scientists in the back room figuring out some of these insights, we can act even faster. And AI will allow us to do that. The other thing that, again, kind of aligns with everything we've just talked about is that this can serve up the right information to your employees at the right moment. So instead of kind of digging through a knowledge base or something and trying to figure that out, this will allow them to be empowered in ways that I think are really exciting as well. And then we also want to know that, if the insights that we gathered and we acted on, how do we know if they really worked? We can start testing those things a lot faster. We can start seeing the results of that. We can start really understanding, did the actions that we take actually have the outcomes that we wanted? Were customers happy with it? What is the feedback they're giving us, even if they're not giving us direct feedback, right? Like those behavioral analytics and things like that. So all of that is really important. And then, as you mentioned, like people are changing too, and speed expectations are going up pretty high now. People want to receive responsiveness in a new way. They want to have information, they want to get those products faster. And a lot of what we can do as business leaders and customer experience leaders is understand not only the customer journey, but also the way that it maps back to your supply chain inventory, how things work to get the products and services to the customers, because then that will allow us to really make those adjustments on behalf of customers when things maybe aren't going the way we want them to with some of those back end things. It's also empowering us as the organization to make changes on the inside of the operation to deliver more for customers. So I just think there's a lot to be excited about right now. And I think it's going to take real human leadership. We're going to have to understand to be proactive and intentional about this. We need to understand, our strategy, our customers, the outcomes we want first, and then using some of this amazing technology and tools that we have now to just boost that, amplify it, take off in a whole new way. I think it's really exciting. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you in like 5 years and see how far we've come.
Okay. I can't wait either, but let's book it now.
Yeah.
So tying together something that you mentioned, right? You mentioned several things, but both the AI and speed together.
Mhm.
We've been talking a little bit about personalization today. You can personalize in so many ways. Like you said,
Yes.
sometimes it is knowing your name. Sometimes it is giving you the right next step, even though I don't know your name, but I have a general sense in who you might be.
Mhm.
And that could be both online and offline. And so I do think the what's next is we actually connect the two.
Yes.
We ask commonsensical questions of information that we already have. And then we get a narrative-based summary back to us saying, here is the audience story. And that audience might be Jeannie Walters. That audience might be you, me, and everyone on the call. We might just be a big audience. And it's just what do we all think about? What do we all do? What do we all feel? What do we want? And what are some recommendations for different segments within that audience? Because that might just not be an audience of hopefully thousands of listeners out there, but it could be an audience of tens of millions of different customers for a brand or potential customers. So I think connecting those dots is really what's next, because we have tech of AI, but we don't have ways for everyone to engage in it normally as in an enterprise software fashion yet. It's out there, but that's coming. And we have profiles, but these profiles sometimes are not fast enough or not connected to all of these different things. And so I know that Medallia focuses keenly on both of those and connecting those two things. So that's why I feel like it's a little bit what's next. And if you were talking to me in 5 years, we're going to have to talk about augmented reality, or metaverse or extended reality, whatever we're going to call it at that time. But a fun fact for everyone listening out there, did you know there's already, Jeannie, 1.4 billion augmented reality users today? And the reason why that is true is because the top device to have augmented reality through is your phone. This is overlaying something in the real world through the eyes of digital technology. And so there are already all sorts of different applications to visualize a couch that you haven't bought in your room.
That's right.
So there's tons of retail applications, but you can envision all sorts of different healthcare, hospitality, navigational, all utilitarian purposes that we have a walking computer in our device. Why can't I see through that computer?
Yep. I think that's a great point. You brought a lot of great points about connecting the dots too. And I think when we think about, what's available to us, sometimes it's really, it can be very exciting to think about, let's do AR, let's do this. But the examples you just brought are like, what can we do to improve, right? Like, what can we do to make the journey that much more personal, to make it so that somebody feels empowered to take that next step? Healthcare is a great example. There's also, in manufacturing, there are a lot of applications for AR as well. It's figuring things out before you actually see it. So that's totally exciting too. And, one of the things we talk about is sometimes if you, talk about journey mapping, you might do that about today's world, but then you might want to do that for the tomorrow's tomorrow, right? Like what, if you had your magic wand, what would the journey map look like? And what would that journey look like for your customers? And, do it for every segment, do it for the big group, do it for that one customer you're thinking of. But it can be really enlightening and it can really be inspiring to how to innovate next. When you start thinking about all the disruptions we've had in the last decade plus have been about experience, they haven't really been about product. And so when you think about that, I like to say, be your own disruptor, right? Like think about what if you were disrupting your industry tomorrow and create a customer journey for that. That can really get exciting and it can help you understand, okay, we need to make sure that we have the right tools available to us to make this happen. And that can really get people on board as well. So I love ideal state or future state customer journey mapping. That can be a very powerful tool.
There's an exercise to look up for those who are really interested in that kind of futuristic thinking. And it's our concept rather, it's called the cones of possibility. So it is possible futures, preferred futures, probable, and plausible, or sometimes it's the one that's actually going to happen. So it's of the premise of there's a lot that could happen, but if we were to ask ourselves the design questions now about customers' wants and needs of the future, where might that shake out in light of the information that we have today, where the company is going, where we think customers are going, where the world is going. And so you could try to anticipate. And of course, that's hard to get right.
Yeah.
But if you're not even inside of that exercise, you have to wonder 5 to 10 years from now, or even potentially less, are you ready for what trends might be hitting then?
That's right. That's right. I love thinking that way. It's so fun. And then again, we'll come back in 5 years and see how we did on these predictions.
So before we close out, one last question, Jeannie. So we talked about so many different angles. If everyone is confused where to start, where should they go next? What's a practical way to get started from here?
Well, I think a lot of this is about asking hard questions of your organization and really what you want to do for your customers, and then flipping that around and understanding your customers and making sure you're asking the right questions of them at the right moment and that you're making those right observations. So I like to say customer experience is a mindset, a strategy, and a discipline. And so that means that if we don't have that mindset about, we really want to understand our customers and we want to deliver for them, and we know the ideal experience for them and how to get there, that's really what that mindset is. And then the strategy is really, what can this do for our organization? Let's make some real goals. Let's make sure we're really getting that return on the investment of everything and treat this like a business strategy. And then we need the discipline to really keep up the momentum, right? We need to make sure that we're not just collecting the data, but we're analyzing it. We're making sure that we're looking for those key factors to help us understand, and doing those root cause analyses and understanding how to use all of the technology that's available and getting those data points so that we can continue to improve the experience, improve the journey, and really evolve with our customers and innovate with our organizations. I just think there's so much there. So if I were starting, I would say, start with that journey map, make sure you understand who your customers are, and then do a little reflection on your strategy too, and understand what you're trying to do. And then work with great partners like you, of course, Michael. That would be my next recommendation.
Well, I love it, Jeannie. And I know that you're out there to help everyone who's listening as well, too. So as a reminder for everyone, not only do you you have this call to listen to, but we are providing additional resources in the webinar console on your screen. So they range from how to conduct a customer journey mapping workshop. There's also a way that you can think about that future state exercise that we talked about. And we also have 2 additional Medallia resources for you in terms of research in the digital channel around findings that we have across our customer base in terms of behavioral analytics. So think of it as the indirect feedback data source And we also have a way to learn a little bit more about what we do in a recent other recording that you might take interested in. That's all about customer journey management and acting in real time. So that's a continuation of the conversation that Jeannie and I had today. If you have any questions, leave them in the Q&A. And if we haven't already gotten to them, or we get to them now, we'll certainly follow up with you via email. And that is all the time that we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us. And I want to do a big thank you for Jeannie for spending so much time with her, with us, sharing all of your thoughts. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did
And I
too.
just want
Thank
to,
you.
of course, thank you, Jeannie. And thank you everyone out there for listening, and take care.